I'm Bobby, he's McBeardy, and welcome back to the Bobby and Beardy Show. Today we will be discussing The Wild Robot. Time codes below, leave a like, subscribe for more, and check us out on Spotify as well if you fancy it. Admin done. Beardy, how the devil are you, sir?
This seems to be a running theme in this podcast. I am somewhat dying. No. I had some medication to make me good, but it makes me bad for a little bit. So I am surviving for now. But the podcast must go on. It goes podcast, my health, and then everything else.
Absolutely.
Yes. Tegan's somewhere in there as well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm recovering from an annoying little cold. The cold's long gone, well, more or less, but I've still got a bit of a cough. I'm going to have to be on that mute button, like a ninja. Otherwise, I'll have to be editing for weeks and drive you all insane, and myself. Right. Let's crack on with the show. The Wild Robot is an animated kids film by DreamWorks Animation. It's based on the 2016 novel of the same name by Peter Brown. Screenplay and was directed by Chris Sanders, starring Lupita Nyong'o, Pedro Pascal, and Kit Connor. It's also featuring the voices of Bill Nye, Stephanie Hsu, Mark Hamill, Catherine O'Hara, Matt Berry, and Ving Rhames. Really quickly, spent the entire film watching the film, thinking Matt Berry was Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords for some reason. Don't know why. It's quite clearly Matt Berry. My brain
100% is, yes.
Was not in gear yesterday.
The one that struck me was Hamill. I did not get that until the credits at all.
Same. No idea. UK release date of this film was the 18th of October 2024, but it was released in the US on the 27th of September, so a bit of a massive gap between those. It's done all right, though, in that time. Worldwide box office, 200 million from a budget of 78. Run time of 1 hour and 42 minutes, maybe slightly too long. I'll come back to that. Apparently, though, The Wild Robot was released on digital streaming to rent on October 15th. Presumably that was in the US because it wasn't in the UK.
I would imagine.
Which means it was available to rent before it was even released in the UK, which is just a bit silly. I don't like staggered releasing. I don't like them putting it on streaming before it's closed in all markets. I don't think it makes sense. And it's done really well. 78 million budget, 200 million return. That's doing really well. Why risk cutting the legs out of something that's doing well by announcing release dates for streaming and releasing it on streaming too soon? Because people will go, oh, cinema's actually quite expensive. I can rent that for cheaper at home, and I'll do that instead. And obviously, you've got many a product on the market which lets you access other people's digital streaming services around the world. So you could go, oh, actually, I can watch it at home in my house in the UK before it's even out in the UK. So I don't know. It seems a little bit silly. Beardy, what's the story?
Well, of course, this has nothing to do with robots or the wilderness. Obviously joking. There is a robot or a crate that maybe houses a robot that washes up on a beach on this island, and this robot kind of goes, "Hi, I'm your property now. Tell me to do things," and cannot find someone to tell it to do things. And it's the journey of the robot finding purpose, the integration of an intelligent machine into obviously the thriving wilderness, what would happen, morality, the idea of free will. It's actually a surprisingly existential film for what is a kids' film. It plays out fantastically. It's animated beautifully. The sort of painted style animation is gorgeous, and it has at least 4 different points where it goes, oh, this is probably going to end now. Oh no, maybe we'll carry on for a little bit. But we'll get to that in the spoilers. Am I wrong?
Yes, we will get to that in the spoilers. That's my one criticism of this film, because I loved this film.
Yeah.
It's really good. It looks incredible. You've already touched on that art style.
Yes.
It's the new DreamWorks art style that they've kind of used for the last couple of big films they've released. The Bad Guys and Puss in Boots, The Last Witch, both use a very similar art style, and they both look fantastic as well. The soundtrack is great. There's no. I'm so used to films just doing big needle drops out of nowhere for like pop songs that don't work and things. But the soundtrack in this film is great. Lots of inspirational music when, I mean, the main plot. Okay, we should probably say the main plot. The robot eventually finds a task in raising a baby gosling.
Ryan?
That's right. Yes. Correct.
Thank you.
and
someone had to make the joke.
Is helping it grow up, learn. It needs to teach it 3 things to complete its task. It needs to give it food, which it ticks off after 1 meal. You silly robot. It needs to teach you how to fly and swim as well. So you get up these big, like going back to the music, you've got these big inspiring like music swells, and it's beautiful, looks incredible, it sounds incredible. It's like they're teaching this baby gosling how to do things. I think it's great. I think the relationship between Roz, the robot who gets renamed from the longer, numbered based system she was originally. Fink, the fox, played by Pedro Pascal, is exceptional. Big fan of that character. Bright Bill, the baby gosling. I think the relationships between all of them, specifically Fink and Roz, their relationship is great. I love it.
I think Fink's character progression is outstanding, going from very sort of self-serving, kind of using Roz to his benefits, and then obviously caring about Bright Bill, caring about Roz, at some point becoming her defender. Yeah, it's such a good character arc from sort of miscreant to wholesome. It's so nice. The one thing I will say though, I completely agree with the music being fantastic, the score, it's really well done. I think that some of the other sound design wasn't outstanding in a year where we have had some good, like, this is all wilderness based, but they didn't really use a lot of external audio for like a surround effect of being in the wild. Obviously the robot noises, you can get a lot of so like machine clanking and sort of wop 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 noises. For I didn't get any of that. It's a small thing, but if I need to pick this film apart, that's all I can find.
I can't necessarily argue against that. I think you're probably right. What I will say, just slightly different, is I think the animation of the robot is, and how it moves and how it turns inside out to like face a different way, or like has to climb a cliff or something. I think that looks great. But yeah, I see your point. Absolutely.
Like I say, it doesn't change the film. It doesn't ruin the film. It's such a small thing. And realistically, I only thought about it as I was leaving. I didn't really even notice it during. I was just thinking, oh, that would have been a bit nice. Like when she first, Roz, the robot, first kind of realizes she's in the middle of a big forest, you could have had sort of a big wraparound with like the cricket noises, birds, a bit of everything. So you feel like encompassed by the crushing weight of the wild. Would have been quite nice. And then other parts later on, which I'm not going to go into, but then there's a lot more robotics and stuff, and that would, again, those little noises would have been good. The rest of it I'll have to go into in spoilers. I'm not going to say it now, but there's some points that would be nice, but it doesn't ruin the film. It was all spectacularly done. Again, this is a gushing film where I'm just going, please just...
It's just a good
I don't
kids
just
film.
Absolutely love things. It's a good adults film.
Well, yeah, to be fair, I enjoyed it. I
enjoyed
it a lot.
The jokes. Obviously, Matt Berry does a lot of jokes in anything he does, and some of it is it's always that stuff where it goes over kids' heads, but it's perfect for adults. The part where he says, "Oh, well, this is male bovine excrement." Like, yeah, fair enough. That's brilliant. Just can't gush enough. Apparently,
it's quite a fun film, and it's a funny film. It's got it's quite upbeat, despite the fact. I mean, ultimately, the story is it's a story of someone, a robot in this case, thrust into a parental role who is in no way ready, but is just doing their best, and then the connections that are formed, and the bonds that are formed, and I think it's really funny. I think it's heartfelt. There's some emotions in there. There's a scene where the goslings start to migrate towards the end of the film. And it made me feel some emotions. You see Roz like looking out as they all start flying away.
Right.
Like, oh my god!
The part that hits for me is the winter scene when Roz is protecting everyone. We won't go into right now, but that when she's finished that task, that is just Yeah, I to be fair, I turned around and Tegan is bawling. Like, she cries at adverts, so like she was crying the entire film. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I don't think it's not. It doesn't put it on like all these emotions and these like themes. It doesn't put it on too thick, which other films I feel like do and have in the past. It doesn't become overbearing. It doesn't become a bit cliche and cringy at times. It's like, well, some things I get put off by, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a good film. Again, I say slightly too long. I would argue. The kids in my screening did start to get a bit restless in the last half hour or so. So that's kind of a bit of a giveaway. And it does kind of Lords of the Rings, multiple rings. Where you think it's starting to wrap up and then it does another thing and then a bit of we'll talk about it.
Yeah, there was at least 4 points where it could have ended comfortably, wrap things up nicely. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy with how it played out and ended, and all very good spoilers. But yeah, I felt very teased by it, like, it's coming to close. No, we're still here. But we had no kids in ours, and as an adult watching it, I think the length of it, I'll watch a 3.5 hour film happily. For me, felt fine. I didn't feel any drag to it. To me, it's just I kept expecting the way that storytelling works. I was expecting that finish.
Yeah, I presume that's what the book does as well. It kind of. I don't know if it is true to the book, which I'm presuming it is, having never read it. It'd be interesting to know, or even heard about it until a couple of weeks ago. It'd be interesting to know if when you're reading the book, it feels like it's starting to wrap up as much as it did in the movie, like several times, or if it's kind of like it's like a chapter where you're like, okay, and it's not as noticeable. But yeah, I kind of just want to go in a bit spoilery and just talk about my one fault with the film and then just give it a big old thumbs up because I really liked it.
I'm happy to start spoilers, so if you're giving it a thumbs up, I'm 100% also giving it a thumbs up.
I thought so.
I've been looking forward to it for a long time.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Ruin it for me. Tell me what's wrong with
it. No, there's nothing wrong with it. But I like, okay, there are too many endings in my opinion. And I think the kids in the audience with me agreed, because by the time the third or fourth one was happening, they're actively talking a lot more than they were. And kids have a small attention span than humans anyway. Humans than adults. But so the biggest this moment is kind of like we're getting up to the end is Bright Bill has learned how to fly, he's learned how to swim, and he's going to migrate. And it's a real emotional moment. They're both finding it difficult to say goodbye, but they've got to let go of each other. Roz is like hanging on the cliff from a tree, watching him fly away. And in a different story, it would have ended kind of there. Maybe he'd have come back and said, actually, I'm not going with this family, like the migration. I'm staying with you. You're my family. You and Thinker, who I want to stay with. But it continues. Like, it could have been an ending. Or it could have skipped forward a bit. So it goes on there's a bit of a scuffle in the migration. They go into a farm and they kind of get shot at by some evil robots and stuff. Then there's the bad winter scene where Fink and Roz rescue all the animals. And that's a good scene.
Well, can I interject here? So I love this scene specifically because this film doesn't actually shy away from some difficult topics. So I'm going to have to refer back to a little bit. When Fink first kind of says to Roz, I'm going to help you with the gosling, he starts sort of eating and pulling apart crabs and stuff. And it's very clear that once the crab has been cooked, it's now food, not an animal. But that's a weird distinction to make in a kid's film. And then in this sort of terrible winter scene, there is a point where they find animals that haven't made it and they cover it back up. It's a dark, but it's life. Any kid who has a pet is going to have to go through something similar at some point. But they don't shy away from it, and I really kind of respected that. They didn't need to put that in, but it's one of those things.
Yeah, they could have just rescued all the animals we've met, Matt Berry, the beaver, and the possum, and things like that. But no, they did include that. I actually wrote down in my notes all the animals, and then I had to delete the word all because I remembered that scene where they don't succeed in rescuing. They don't all make it. It's a really bad winter. They end up living in the house that Roz built, and they agree not to eat each other in there. It's carnage. There's going to be a winter truce. You're like, okay. And then winter ends, spring comes, Bright Bill's back from his migration, and you go, right, here we go. Big happy ending. They're going to reconnect, tell each other they love each other. and then whoa, big robot fight. Like, it's like, okay, big robot fight. And then, all the animals have to come together and fight off the evil robots. Great stuff. And then that's the end. Oh, no, wait, hang on a minute. Roz is now going to go back to the factory and be reset, kind of, but not fully. And then Brightbill's going to visit her just before the credits roll. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I felt like there were better places to end, happier notes. I know there's more books than the one, so they could potentially make more films, which presumably pick up from that spot. So they kind of probably wanted to end correctly for the books. But
do you know the titles of the books?
It's The Wild Robot, The Robot 2, Wild Robot 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, come on. If you're going to do this joke, at least it's Judgment Day.
And Wild Robot 3, The Last Dance featuring Venom. I'm pretty sure those are the...
Oh, come on. If you're doing a 3, it has to be for life. Come on.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And then do a
Mine is
film.
better, I'm sorry.
God damn.
Ride or die. No, the wild robot escapes, so I'm assuming they stopped exactly where the first book ends, because if the wild robot escapes, that makes sense from the end of it.
Yeah.
See, the wild robot text came out last year. So I am looking forward to them hopefully making a trilogy of this, because it needs
I would
be
love
done,
to see more.
And they'll take my money every time, happily. Yeah. So, can I steer away for a little bit? So one of the things, again, I really, really liked about this is it's very two-pronged in its elements. So you have Roz, who is completely the wrong thing in the wrong environment, very much teaching you how it doesn't matter what your environment is, you can mold to it and within a little bit assimilate. But then on Brightbill's side of it, it's you might be in the right place, but if you're different, be yourself. And both of those stories are very good messages for kids. I haven't actually read the book, and I really do, so I may actually have ordering them. But if those are the stories, sometimes it's the right thing to do to fit in with the crowd, and sometimes it's the right thing to do to be yourself. And I like that as a message. I think it did it very, very well. Obviously, there is that we kind of glossed over the point where Brightbill finds out the tragedy that happened to why Roz has to raise him. And again, I think they handled that quite well. It is that sort of he's like a 3 month, maybe 5 months old, but it's like a teenage rebellion. You're not my real mum. But then as he's kind of having to leave, kind of Bill Nye says, let's go for a fly past so you can say bye. And it's still quite nice, but they deal with it properly. You can have these emotions. That's the bit that got me, man.
That flyby. I was like, all those emotions.
Anything to do with Bill Nye. No, I can't. And even it covers the bullying side of things quite nicely as well, actually. Again, if you're just watching it as a kids film, a kids instructional film, which obviously I have to because I do work, it covers a lot really, really nicely. And it's also done funnily, and the voice acting is spectacular, and the art is spectacular, and the music's spectacular, and I love this film. So again, a thumbs up if you didn't realise.
He hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my one criticism is perhaps the book might do it better instead of it feeling narratively like it's wrapping up several times. In the book, it might feel, again, when you read it, you can let me know. It might feel at the end of the book to be it crescendoing there rather than kind of, ending. But personally, as an adult watching a kids film, I didn't really mind. The kids definitely slightly did. But I thought this was great. The story's incredible. The relationships are great. It looks beautiful. I really love DreamWorks' art style they're using at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It kind of salvages some ideas because they announced they're doing another Shrek a while back. And people were like, well, no, let this die a death. It's good, but it's not been where it was from the original two. Maybe. And then the Puss in Boots film came out, which was spectacular. And then this has come out, which is arguably building on it again. So people are now thinking, well, maybe let DreamWorks do their thing for a while and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I'm completely on board with if you're doing this well, just do your thing.
DreamWorks are on a roll at the moment. They're doing very well. They've released a good number of great films. Bad Guys Spectacular as well. Really enjoy it. Also looks incredible.
When I first heard about this film again a while back, I saw some pre-production animation stuff for it. And then I saw another film called Flow that's coming out maybe later this year and early next, I think. And they seem very contrasty in the animation style and this sort of post-apocalyptic, well, it's not exactly post-apocalyptic, but future world. And I wanted them to be released together so we can compare. So when Flow does come out, we may need to refer back.
Okay.
Because it looks outstanding as well. It looks very similarly done. It's got cats, so you'll like it.
I love cats. Not the
exactly.
musical. Don't like the music.
Oh, I assumed you loved the one with the new one, the best one.
The best one, the only one, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Maybe we'll review that on our classics episodes one day and do a throwback.
Cats.
Yeah, maybe.
Outstanding.
Who knows?
Outstanding.
We'll see what's
get your
going
cats in the podcast.
That would be better than that entire musical and film.
Car crash.
Oh, dear. Anything else to add?
Lastly, apparently there's a post-credit scene that I missed. I never miss post-credit scenes, but I left slightly early.
Well,
I feel bad about that.
Do you know what the post-credit scene is? Or are you just teasing me?
Supposedly. No, supposedly. So no, apparently there's a thing in the post-credits where Paddler, Matt Berry's character, and Fink, Pedro Pascal's character, they plant a tree. I think it's to replace the big tree they have to cut down.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a squirrel, the same squirrel that shows up 5 times through the film, and Fink throws an acorn at. That's all it is. Again, it's this nice sort of conservation. You take down a tree, you plant a tree. Obviously, you've got to wait hundreds of years before it's useful again, but still, it's fine. It's fine.
I mean, I won't worry about too many other questions of all those animals are friends now and form a truce, but half those animals need to eat the other animals. So I'm not going to think about it.
Next winter's going to be awkward.
I'm not going to think about it. It's fine. I want about it. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Do you want to take us home with the outro?
Yeah, sure. I clearly definitely remember the outro that we used to do, but thank you very much for listening and or watching to the podcast. This has been The Wild Robot, an outstanding film. Please go watch it. Bobby can be found wherever you want to find him, maybe on Twitch or here, but he's look around, he's probably behind you now. You don't know.
Maybe he's got a gun threatening to do, if you don't do the podcast, he'll shoot you in the back of the knee.
Yeah, he definitely didn't say that before. I'm blinking to say it's okay. No, thank you very much, and we will be back next week with another review. Have fun till then, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Bye.